Hello, everyone. Today, unsurprisingly, for those who know me, I'll be talking about Airflow. That's the almost all the talks I do is about Airflow because I'm a. Can we show the presentation? Oh, okay. Okay, good. So the title for those who haven't seen it. So I'm a Apache Airflow PMC member and committer and maintainer. Like if you look at the number of commits at Apache Airflow, you'll find that I'm #1 because I do a lot of small commits. So like that's just to be very precise. I'm also a member of the Apache Software Foundation. I'm also a security freak. I'm a member of Apache Software Foundation Security Committee. You can find all my details. But today's topic is not about me, it's about Airflow. Who knows Airflow here? Pretty much everyone. Okay, so I don't have to explain. But I will. Like, this is my favorite metaphor. I'm a singer, I'm a choir singer for 30 years. I've been singing in a choir. And for me, always, Airflow is a metaphor of a conductor, like orchestrator, conductor, whatever you name it. Because Airflow is in the center of this, it's in the center of data processing. It actually is very much used and useful for pretty much every bigger and smaller and medium-sized company that processes the data. And Airflow is not doing too much. So like that conductor in the orchestra, they don't do too much. They just wave the stick and bow, and that's it. It seems so. But actually, it's a necessary tool and necessary component of making sure that your data processing is done in order, that things are communicating with each other, that the stuff is actually manageable. And metaphor from the music, like that the music is like the people are playing together in a synchronous way, and that the music they create is beautiful. So like the data you create with Airflow is also beautiful, hopefully, even if those small pieces of data is coming from different places. Very briefly, what Airflow is basically a workflow engine. Yeah? So you have like tasks which are connected with dependencies. One is executed after another. And that's a basic thing. This whole set of tasks connected with dependency is called DAG. And yesterday I was at the AI Plumbers conference, and I explained that we don't explain what the DAG is anymore, because it used to be capital DAG and it means something, and probably you know what it means, but I will not tongue twist myself because it's very difficult to say what DAG is, for me at least. So we just decided, and we discussed that on the Airflow 3 discussions, that since Airflow is so popular, we'll just own the DAG. We will stop capitalizing it fully. It's like D, A-G is small letters, and we don't explain what it is. This is DAG. That's it. And the DAG is one way of representing your data flows, but this is the biggest benefit of Airflow is that you can have single person who is looking at this huge complex graph of things and data being flown from place to place, and they can make an order out of the mess in there. Mess in the sense that every single piece of that kind of like this, you can see this on the left side, you can see the history of executions of the DAG, which are different tasks. And then you can see some details of a particular single selected execution in time of that particular task. And you can see logs, you can see details, how many times it failed in the past. You can scroll back and forth, etc. Which means that a person who doesn't know exactly how particular task and piece is implemented, they can actually manage it and monitor and see that things are wrong, retry it where things are wrong, and try to understand what's going on by looking at the logs, and eventually maybe even like forward the information to the person who actually knows how this particular piece is implemented, which is the norm in big companies and smaller, like medium-sized companies, that even if you have like big DAG and big data flow processing, each piece is developed by different people who have expertise in this particular area. And this is something that yesterday at AI Plumbers conference, we were discussing the different frameworks and stack and like the mess it creates. And it's like everyone it's impossible to know all the pieces. Like, it's completely impossible. So in order, if you really want to have various pieces of your data processing and manage them, there is no way a single person monitoring it, or even like a small group of people monitoring it, can understand it all. Because they are done by different people and at different times and using different tools or whatever. So Airflow gives you this plane where you can try to understand what's going on without actually knowing what's going on. Why Airflow is important? We have more than 10 years in 2025. So this year is the 10th anniversary, or last year was the 10th anniversary technically. And we are part of Apache Software Foundation. We incubated in ASF 2016. I wasn't there at the time. Then we became ASF top-level project, and I'm looking at that. Yes, I was already there at that time, so it's like 6 years now. Then we released Airflow 2 in 2021 in January. And for many years, we developed Airflow like 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, etc., up to 2.10, even 2.11 recently as a kind of bridge release. And we've added incrementally stuff, and we didn't remove anything. Like, we kept backwards compatibility. And that kept us slowed down because we had to keep the compatibility and we couldn't break it. And eventually we decided, and I'll tell why we go to Airflow 3. Airflow 3 was released like 1.5 months ago. We have 1.5 months ago. Why Airflow is important? Not only because it's used, but it's also because you have huge, fantastic community. If you look at, this is OSS Rank. That's the first page of OSS Rank. All the OSS projects out there. Airflow, last few months were like, we were even 18, just above Python. We are now just below Python a little bit, 19. We have 3,600 contributors, 31 commits, and some other stats that you can see. We have, last week, we merged 149 merged pull requests, which is 20 pull requests a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. So you can imagine the flow that we have. And we have like 60 authors last week, 130 commits in total. 2,060 lines were added and 21,000 lines were removed. And you can see me also, like, I'm quite active there, like the second thing. The first one is the bot, which I wrote. So like it's just counts twice. So Airflow 3.02 was released last week, and it also means that it's we still have bugs, but the most important bugs and problems, kind of teething problems, are already fixed because we already released 2 bug fix releases, and we are continuing doing that every few weeks. We'll just add and fix more issues. We know that there are some issues. I mean, it's been quite an effort. So just to summarize the effort, it took us 8-9 months of like maybe 40 to 50 people working pretty much full time on Airflow to release Airflow 3. That was like huge effort. And let me say why we've developed Airflow 3, or like what were the reasons why we thought like Airflow 2 is important enough to think about Airflow 3, but also why we had to go to Airflow 3. Because Airflow 2 has some strengths. Huge user base and community, huge versatility. We've learned various ways how people are using Airflow. I'll tell about that in a moment. We have steady stream of new features being added and valuable and used, and people tell us that in every year we run a survey, and then people tell us, yes, those things are useful, those things are not useful. So we really have a very good use and very good user base for all kinds of data flows. And we are learning from the industry, so there are others who like different workflow solutions, and we look at them. We just, there is Airflow and like everyone else just below. So it's not like that they are our direct competitors, but we just look what they do and we learn and we apply what makes sense. For example, that data sets, asset-oriented DAGs were taken from our, because our competitors did it first. So others did it first, and we said, so yeah, that's useful, let's do it as well, when it makes sense. But we have some weaknesses. So originally Airflow was really rooted in the ETL workflows and data intervals. So basically Airflow was like, okay, we have the data interval, repeated multiple times. That was the kind of how it was designed. Architecture of UI was not really modern. Flask, mixture of things. Mess. We didn't have a dedicated AI workflow kinds of support. And of course, AI is all the rage. We have to be ready for AI world, whatever it comes with it. We didn't have good change management. So our assumptions were always that you define the DAG and it runs for months or weeks without modification. So it just repeats the same stuff over and over, and then you evolve very slowly. And also we have like my favorite part, because I take that this is like my biggest part of involvement in Airflow, like looking at developer experience and CI and dependencies. So we have like 718 dependencies in total, 90 providers with different services that we integrate with, which means that there is a huge complexity of trying to install stuff together with Airflow. So we thought like, okay, what can we do to solve those problems, and why now? AI, ML, of course, everyone is important, knows it is important. Our users seem to have different needs. Our user skills are proliferating. Airflow is like Python centric, and our assumption when Airflow was created is that people who develop DAGs, they know Python, and pretty well, which is changing, like, for different reasons. So Python is winning, but it's not the only thing in the data processing. People know TypeScript, Ruby, Golang, whatever. Yeah? And Python maybe not that well, maybe just a little bit, but they are not experts in Python. We had some technical debt piling up because we didn't remove things. And we realized that streaming and inference, which kind of different kinds of workflow, no like huge batches, but much smaller kind of workloads, are becoming more and more important for like machine learning, but for other cases as well. So Airflow 3. Airflow 3 is pretty versatile, as I told before. We've learned a lot that, like, initially it was designed for ETL pipelines, but people were using Airflow for infrastructure pipelines as well. So we've learned in Airflow Summit 3 years ago, or 4, I think, that Cloudflare is using Airflow to set up their infrastructure. So like whenever you create a new DNS, there is an Airflow workflow running behind the scenes. It was like, okay, funny, you say that. But in the last Airflow Summit in San Francisco, in October last year, or September, we've learned that people are already using Airflow big time for training machine learning AI pipelines. Like, because it's convenient, they know it. It can be, adjusted, like, tweaked a bit, like, and you can run the workflows. And some people even started to use Airflow for inference flows, which was kind of really surprising to us, because that was never thought we can do that. And of course, agents are all the rage, and some MCP communication agents people are already doing that. We don't have to do anything. They will use Airflow 2 for that, no problem. But there are some, in the end, there are some foundational Airflow properties which we wanted to keep. So like those are the things that we saw that it's changing, but there are things that we wanted to keep, like maintainability, which means that you can deploy Airflow at scale, you can maintain it, you can release it, you can get new versions. You have Apache Software Foundation behind, which security fixes released, etc., etc. So all the stability that comes from it and maintainability. Airflow has very nice integration with different observability tools. Most importantly is like the data lineage right now, which is open lineage. So like we have a full native integration with open lineage. So we can track your data being processed. The scalability, the architecture is pretty generic. It doesn't make too many assumptions, or a little bit about the ETL, but that's gone now. It's really enterprise ready because all the enterprises in the world are using it. So yeah, it must be ready. It has great and supporting community, which I'm super proud to be part of. And we have vendor neutrality, which is the important part of which comes with Apache Software Foundation. You're not vendor locked when you're using Airflow. No matter if you're using Amazon or Google or Microsoft, they are all using the same Airflow. Yeah, they are not modifying it. They are adding stuff on top of that, or Astronomer. So those are the four big like Airflow as a service providers. But you can also run Airflow on premises on your own premises. I think even like from the survey, like 70-80% of people are using it not as a service, but just deploy Airflow on premises, which is like a lot. And also Airflow was taught for many years, for several years now, as a platform. So we didn't want it to implement everything. We didn't want to be ML, AI, fantastic solution that has every, bells and whistle and supports all the new algorithms. Yesterday on the AI Plumbers, it was like, okay, I've heard yesterday there is this new thing, there's like, Flash something, yeah? And like, do you support it? Like, we didn't want to do it. Like, it's not our bread and butter. So Airflow, for several years, we developed Airflow as a purely engine that can be extended with various ways. So like engine of execution of workflows. And it can be extended in any way you want. There are many extensions points, UI extensions, API extensions. The way how we design it allows it to be heavily customized to your needs. So before I tell what Airflow 3 is, I will tell what it is not. So it is not a high-level ML AI out-of-the-box solution. If you install Airflow out of the box, you don't have all the tooling it will run all your machine learning workflows, AI things, and it's ready for that. No, you have to adapt it. You have to customize it to your need. And that's also a strength, because there is no single solution. Like, you should adapt more to your business, how you build your business, and how you put the AI ML components inside, rather than based your whole workflows on like, we do everything with AI, because it's expensive. So you don't want to replace every single part of your workflows with AI and doing stuff, because it costs, it's slow, etc., etc. So you'll have a mixture of those things. And we are more like a platform to execute workflows that you can plug in and adjust to your needs as you need. And we are not the specialized ML AI kind of framework. Yesterday, at the same AI Plumbers conference, we discussed Llama, CPP, MLflow, PyTorch, GGML, TensorFlow, and like probably 50 other names, which are popping up, and some of them disappearing, some of them staying, some of them evolving new things, evolving very quickly. There is no way, even with 50 people in Airflow team working full-time, we could adapt and catch up with that. So we are more providing extension points, and we can execute other kind of sub-workflows or any kind of tooling from within Airflow, because we are not specialists in AI/ML, and we won't ever be. But we can integrate very well with them, like with the infrastructure guys. We were not specialists in infrastructure, but Cloudflare apparently could tweak Airflow to set up the infrastructure. So Airflow is a reliable, flexible, and enterprise-ready execution engine for different kinds of flows. That's basically what it is. And I will just try to copy some. What happens here? Sorry. Oh. Okay, so there are some real use cases that I want to just tell the names from. So in October, 7-10 of October, we have the Airflow Summit in Seattle. And if you are interested in Airflow and want to learn more about Airflow 3, I heartily invite anyone to come. But I just want to bring the names and titles of some of the talks we have. Building MLOps platform for 300 MLDS specialists on top of Airflow. Orchestrating travel insights, price lines, MLOps with Airflow. Seamless ML pipelines, integrating Apache Airflow and Airbyte for AI-powered retail insights. Airflow as an AI agents toolkit, unlocking 1,000+ integrations with MCP. Automating healthcare triage with Airflow and large language models, how Airflow runs the weather. AI-powered web security, protecting applications from emerging threats. LLM ops with Airflow 3 and the Airflow AI SDK. And the last one is really nice, running Airflow tasks on your coffee machine, which I'll tell a bit in a moment. So those are the titles. Those are things that people already do with Airflow 2, some of them with Airflow 3, as you see in the last two talks. And this means that it's really useful. to do that. So a very quick recap of the pieces of Airflow that are important in the context of Airflow 3 and change and machine learning. You probably know the DAG outring part of Airflow traditionally. So you could have objects, Python objects, which are executable operators. Yeah. So like black boxes that you can execute as tasks. And you can connect those tasks with dependencies. It's all Python. Very nice for programmers. You can see that. You can define the DAG, and you can define the schedule. But also, you can, and that's, well, not very recent. It's like all Airflow tools, the last 4 years. You can also define your tasks as a callable functions, Python functions that you can use. So if you're a Python developer, this is a really nice way of adding new logic whenever you need it without, creating object and classes, etc., and connect them very easily. But the nice thing that we have now in Airflow 3, which is pretty much different than it was, it's like we have a very well-defined Airflow SDK, which has a limited number of operations that you can use. So you can isolate the things that your tasks can do. Previously, it was just you could call any Python, whatever, any inside Airflow. Right now, it's just a very limited set of SDK calls. And what's even more important, it's not Python specific. So Python SDK is there for compatibility, which means that all our tasks are running using this Python SDK. But we've opened up and we are implementing new languages. So you can implement your tasks in Golang, for example, or Golang is already kind of beta or alpha version in Airflow 3.0. In 3.1, it's going to be kind of ready. There is people are working on Rust implementation. People are working on TypeScript implementation. People are working on other languages, Ruby, whatever. And this SDK allows us, because it's just literally HTTP calls under the hood. So it allows to be implemented in a language, which means that whenever you run your task, you will not have Python overhead to start the tasks. You will not have dependency problems, etc. And if your pieces of your infrastructure processing are written in any language, like Golang binary that does something and can execute it in multiple tasks, this Golang binary can become a worker in Airflow without natively, basically, just communicating over HTTP with Airflow. This is like a huge change in our approach, opening up for non-Python developers to write pieces of the stuff that is executed by Airflow. Assets, if you've never used them, they were called data sets in the recent versions of Airflow, but now we name them assets because you can just define the asset as some object, some data, table, whatever you name it. Just it's a data source, let's say. But it's not only data source, because with assets, we also opened up for models, machine learning models, not only CSV data, but models maybe stored in memory, maybe stored on the GPU or whatever. And you can schedule things on assets. So when new assets appear, you can trigger new DAGs. And this is you can add appear a new file in S3 and the new DAG will be automatically started, which means that we are no longer tied to the schedule and intervals, but we can be triggered by different things. For example, we can have 100 versions of hyperparameter tuning configurations, and each of them can trigger your own DAG. And Airflow will handle that very nicely. And with assets, you can do that. So you can schedule DAGs on assets, for example. So you can trigger your own processing when experimenting, for example, when running different models. And external event scheduling, so means you can actually trigger stuff by creating a file. The modern UI, we've already saw a glimpse of that, but the whole idea, and I'll just quickly scroll through this beautiful UI, I hope. I mean, we like it, at least. It's modern, new, very extensible. So we're just adding the capability to adding any kind of UI extensions here, so that you can see your own things, whatever the way you want, in a very nice way. React very rather modern way of creating the UI. And the whole idea with the UI was also to make things that to optimize it for the usage of monitoring. So like to shorten the path, when you look for a problem, you will probably open up Airflow and you will find your problem right there in your eyes. Like you will be able to see the problem, the failing things that you want to look at. This was the whole idea. So rather than developing just piece by piece, it's just guiding the user who is monitoring stuff to make their work easier. Yeah. So it's nice. It has a dark mode built in natively. And a small thing, we are just adding translations for different languages. You haven't heard that, but we do. So I'm the responsible for Polish language translation, and I have two friends of mine who are helping with that. It's a little bit weird to translate some of those stuff in your native language, and looks weird, but we know that people want it. So we finally can do that. Important part for the teamwork, we have DAG bundles now. DAG bundles means that like previously in Airflow, it was like you had like DAG folder and that was like a bag of everything. Yeah? Right now you can split your DAG folder and it not only can come from different sources, but from different technologies as well. For example, we have a Git DAG bundle, which is natively supported by Airflow, which means that you just configure, okay, the DAGs in this particular folder come from the Git, and Airflow will manage all the synchronization and stuff for you. Previously, you had to do it yourself. And also part of this is also like you can separate small teams, each of them providing their own DAG bundle, which we are going to use in a very near future, to make Airflow multi-team, to be able to run more isolated teams in the same instance of Airflow. And you can define like how often things are changing in there, like nice things that can configure DAG parsing. But what it also made possible is like DAG versioning, and this is like one of the biggest asks for many years. You can see an example here, like when the DAG changed from one version to other. So there is some task that is available in the previous version. There is it's missing in the next version. Then you can select the version of the code that you want to display when you look at the DAG, and all the nice thing, and rerunning stuff in the previous version, running stuff in the current version. All this is now possible. And for example, here you can see, like, I'll just switch between those two, so you can see one version and the other. One version and the other version of the same DAG. Yeah, for example, printed in. And that also surprisingly, that this is also very good for this kind of machine learning AI models, so workflows where you are experimenting with things. People are often, replacing pieces. Like, well, the thing that we've heard about the AI plumbers yesterday was like, okay, so which LLM I should choose, or which framework I should choose to do this particular thing. For this, that. But tomorrow, the decision might be different because they might develop new algorithm or thing, and it might be cheaper or more expensive or whatever. So you want to be able to modify your DAGs, your workflows, more frequently and keep control on that. So see, okay, this particular workflow was executed with this particular tool, and the next one with this particular tool, and then you can compare the differences, and then you can track all the history of that, which is really cool. UI scheduled backfill, a small thing, but really useful. And again, the same story with changing the tools. For example, when you want to change your model from ChatGPT 4.1 to 5.6 or 7.20, whatever, and redo whatever your processing was on the historical data, you can do backfill, which means that you can rerun stuff from the history using the new version of your workflow or new version of your tooling. And before that, the backfilling was a kind of afterthought. You had to run the CLI kind of in the backend, whatever. Right now, it's a fully featured UI feature that you can just rerun and reprocess all this data from this particular range, and you will see it. And it is managed with the same scheduler that runs everything else, so it doesn't clash, doesn't create deadlocks as it used to be. So like this is really cool way to be able to reprocess your data. Architecture security. We are even more enterprise ready. I told Airflow is already enterprise ready, but this is like even more, in a sense that there was a long-standing issue with Airflow architecture that DAG authors had access to the database directly and could do whatever, which was like, no, not the best solution. But it worked for many years. So right now, this changed in Airflow 3. DAG author, like the parsing and execution of task, does not use the database connectivity directly and cannot. It's not configured. It's not possible. They have to go to the API server. And this task SDK that I've mentioned before, it implements the APIs that you can use and talk to Airflow, which makes it like super, like this is how enterprise software should look like. Yeah? So we are there. One last thing that I wanted to talk about is the edge execution. The coffee machine. Coming back to the running Airflow on the coffee machine. So this is like very complex graph, and I want to remember all of it, of course. No, it's like, no, I will not show. So like the thing is here, like the important thing here is this thing in the middle, the firewall, which is like the usual way how when you really distribute your data processing, you don't always want to centralize everything in one place. You often have different properties and different execution parts in different parts of your company, in different data centers, in different clouds, whatever. And previously, because of the database connectivity, that was very difficult to do that, to have different pieces of Airflow running on different clouds or components. This is now possible because of this clean API we have. So you can put firewall and just use HTTP request. And here you have Airflow scheduler, web server, the database. But then the worker that executes stuff is we have a new executor, which is called Edge executor, Edge 3. And there is a story for the name, but I will not tell about that. So it's Edge 3, which actually can run on any hardware, on any operating system, because it just uses the API to talk to Airflow. So it doesn't have to have the Airflow Python dependencies installed or anything. You can just run it on a coffee machine, like the Raspberry Pi kind of size of the tasks are possible to be executed, and it's the same like with different like GPUs or whatever. Yeah, so like you have complete freedom to execute the tasks in places where normally Airflow wouldn't be able to run, like Windows machines. Yeah, like why not? Which is actually a very cool way of being able to run, for example, tests on the hardware. This setup, the Edge executor, was tested by one of our PMC members, Jens. He's from Germany, by the way. He couldn't come today, unfortunately. I hoped I can meet him. In Bosch, so they are using Airflow to run tests on a number of distributed devices. So they are running that, even in Airflow 2. So together with Jens, we worked on a version of Airflow 2 with task isolation, with database separation, and Edge executor that you could enable by a feature flag, but we never exposed that to the public because that was like very, very brittle. It was kind of trial, but he did it in Bosch. He implemented it. He installed there, and for a year now, the tests on all their hardware infrastructure on different devices they are running with Airflow Edge executors running on those devices, on like kind of small Raspberry Pis or kind of machines. Yeah, so this is already proven. This works for a year now. So what's next? We have support for more programming languages coming, asset partitioning, which is more like iceberg kind of tables, supporting them, being able to replace only parts of the data. Human in the loop is an important part that we don't have, but we already have an AIP proposal how to because sometimes in the AI workflow, you want to get user confirmation that, yes, that looks good. We want to go further. Again, that's something that we discussed yesterday at the AI Plumbers conference. That's an important part. So we're implementing it. And many more things that, we didn't even have time to think for the last 8 months. We were completely exhausted after these 8 months, I can tell you. That was terrible. Shameless plug, early bird discount until June 30th, so not a lot of time, for Airflow Summit, October 7, 9, 2025 in Seattle, in USA. And I see Paul came here, so referring to Paul's opening discussion, opening ceremony today. Some people do not really like to go to US now for conferences, or they think they shouldn't. But I think we should. We should go and meet people. We should go and discuss with the community that we have. That's why it's already 2 times I was in US with the security and PyCon conference, and I'm going twice for Community Over Code in Apache Software Foundation and Airflow Summit, because I want to meet those people. So if you want to meet people the community you work with, that's a great opportunity. I invite everyone to come. And all that I said today is a very, very brief explanation of things that we will be talking over 3 days. Probably there are 40% of talks is about Airflow 3, or 30%, something like that. 3 days, 4 tracks. So that was very, 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 very short. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions also from the online community? And to the online people, please post your questions in the questions tab, not in the chat.
Yeah, thank you very much for the talk. Very interesting. You alluded to kind of this feature of separating different teams. Is there a rough plan when this will be introduced?
Last year at the Airflow Summit, I had a talk called Multi-Tenancy or Multi-Team is Here, which is a little bit premature, I would say, because it wasn't yet ready. We did have this kind of set of features in Airflow to implement it, but it was very brittle and very kind of not really secure. I hope, sincerely, that it's either 3.1 or 3.2. I did the 2 of that. And the main reason is because we literally 2 days ago, we started discussion on the dev list, or 3 days ago, or maybe last week. Did our assumptions we made before, do they still hold, or can we do it simpler? And it seems that we can do it simpler now after Airflow 3 is implemented. We waited for kind of how it will pan out. And I think we have a very good idea now how to implement it with less time. So let's say I keep fingers crossed that 3.1 will be there. I'm not sure because we have other things to do as well, but I'm looking forward to it. Although one comment, multi-team might not be what you think it is. We have the saying that 30% of our users wants multi-tenancy, whatever it's called. That's from our survey, and we think that when there are 3 people talking about multi-tenancy, there are 5 different things they are talking about. So I think it would be great if you take also part, if you want the multi-team, take part in those discussions which we have on the dev list, because then we invite our users to tell what they really want from the multi-team. I mean, because there are so many different things that you might want. Yeah. So also be careful with the. This is one word, multi. So even that, we started with multi-tenancy, but after hearing what our user wanted, we said, no, it's multi-team. So you won't be able to have multiple tenants in there. You just have small teams that are isolated. If you really want to have tenants, you have to have multiple Airflow installations. Yeah.
Thank you. We have time for one other short question. Then, yeah, give another applause, please. Thank you very much.